Mature comedic animated spin-offs of established intellectual properties are becoming a trend these days, like heavy metal bands with gimmicks or unsympathetic troglodytes who yell at baristas at Starbucks, because it's a thing. Over the last few years, we have seen shows that riff on beloved IPs such as the Harley Quinn show, which pokes fun at the Batman series, and Lower Decks, which lampoons Star Trek. And now we have Velma, a show that satirizes the characters within the Scooby-Doo series, which in this incarnation they are all in high school before ever forming up the mystery team, and is from the mind of Mindy Kaling of The Office fame. And on a superficial first glance, Velma is akin to the aforementioned Harley Quinn show and Lower Decks. It has a similar art style, and it has raunchy jokes where these classic timeless characters say fuck, shit, and dick. But honestly, that's where the similarities end. In fact, there are some key differences here, by which I mean Harley Quinn and Lower Decks are actually good, whereas Velma is fuck awful. In fact, it is downright terrible, like being pile-drived dick first by the rhino who is still within his rhinoceros gimp suit. It's not a good time. And for Velma, that's the case for one main reason. The show is just flat out not funny. Like Velma, both the character and the show tries to tell numerous jokes, but they all fall flat. In fact, there wasn't a time where I laughed. I made no noise of amusement when watching this show. If anything, aside from the bad jokes coming from my television, the only noticeable sound coming from my room was the notable absence of any sound. Because before Velma, I did not realize how loud silence could fucking be. Jinkies, this series is painful, all to the point that I could only stomach 3 episodes of this thick brick horse shite before tapping out, because I just couldn't stand watching one more minute of it. I just couldn't take it. And yes, for someone like myself claiming to review the show with this video, that might seem a little unfair. After all, Velma might have some redeemable qualities in later episodes that I'll miss due to not watching the rest of the season. But here is the thing. I don't fucking care, because let's be clear, I gave this show an hour and 15 minutes of my time, even though the writing is bad enough that I wanted to bail on this shit show after the first fucking scene. Hell, when it came to watching Velma, I rationed this shit like a hiker lost in the woods. I only tolerated one of these episodes per day. There was only so much that I can withstand, because that's how lacking in comedic spirit Velma is. It's miserable. There are numerous reasons as to why Velma is unfunny, but the main problem starts with its main character, which for those who need a clarification is Velma, though I figure you probably already know who the main character of this show is, since the series is called Velma. But for the sake of making sure that we are all on the same page, I just wanted to make that point clear for y'all, because I care about my audience, unlike Velma. Anyway, Velma's problems begin with our protagonist. The lead character is quick to judge others, makes a lot of snide and rude comments, and butts heads with every character she meets. And due to this, Velma, the character, is immensely unlikable and annoying. Like Jesus tap dancing Christ on a pogo stick, I actively hate her, which is a problem seeing as we are supposed to be invested in her narrative. Like we, the audience, are supposed to be engaged with her journey where she tries to solve the mystery of her mother's disappearance and possible murder and such. But Velma, the character, is so difficult to empathize with that I just did not care about her arc and journey. And while I understand that characters, especially at the beginning of a given show, are supposed to have faults and imperfections, after all they have to go on transformative narrative arcs throughout the show where they eventually change by the end, this shouldn't extend to a character's likability, especially in a show like Velma. Because even though it is a comedy spoof, a show like Velma requires us to at least be somewhat interested in its narrative development so it could keep its audience reeled in long term. But Velma, both as a show and as a character, fails to deliver a reason to care here. It just falls flat. Additionally, Velma is not the best character to focus a Scooby-Doo comedic riff on. In the source material, Velma is a smart dork who is far removed from being snarky, cynical, or mean-spirited. Yet this is how Velma is portrayed in the show. She is downright nasty to other people, all to the point that I actively hated her, which really does the source character a major disservice. It just feels wrong. However, Velma's poor comedic chops extend beyond its detestable lead, because let's be clear, the comedy on its own is a very surface-level satire of the Scooby-Doo property. For one thing, the show riffs on the basic traits of Scooby-Doo characters, like how Daphne is a good-looking popular girl, Fred is a privileged rich asshole who doesn't even know how to cut his food, fucking baby, and such. But Velma, the show, does not really say anything meaningful or interesting about these characters. It just points these characteristics out without making an intelligent joke or much in the way of insightful commentary on these characters, because Velma, the show, might joke about obvious baseline attributes of iconic Scooby-Doo characters characters and their backgrounds, but it just doesn't do anything enlightening with the material, because despite talking a fuck ton, the show says very little. This extends to the meta commentary as well. See, some of Velma's jokes are based on the fact that the characters point out the purpose of certain storytelling beats, like how pilot episodes have more nudity compared to other episodes, or that a certain given part is where the character resolution is supposed to occur. But once again, Velma, the show, only identifies these attributes without actually saying anything meaningful about them or giving a reason for the audience to care in the first place. It all fails to be funny or interesting. It overall means nothing, like the empty void within my cold, dead heart. The meaning is absent. Furthermore, the actual jokes that the show does tell are blatantly unfunny and borderline distasteful to anyone that knows how to read modern culture's fucking room. See, while the show technically has representation of other races and sexual identities, including that of its lead character, the humor is very Tim Allen-esque, i.e. a type of humor that really panders hard to a more conservative audience, like jokes about Me Too, gender inclusivity, and how the general public supposedly compares everyone that they dislike to literal Nazis. Beleaguered sigh. And with that, it's more than easy to roll one's eyes when the show has a certain off-color commentary that cracks jokes that punch down rather than up towards those who actually deserve the ridicule. Because truly, Velma is just a nasty fucking show like that. It mostly says nothing, but the things that it does say are cringeworthy. Like, I have a permanent hand stamp on my forehead for the amount of times I facepalm. The comedy here is really bad, and it's far removed from being a good time. Ultimately, Velma is a show that wasn't made out of love for the source material. Unlike far better examples of mature animated riffs on established IPs like Harley Quinn and Lower Decks, Velma pokes fun at its Scooby-Doo source material in a way that suggests a disdain for the IP, an act of malice towards Scooby-Doo, and why the franchise has survived such a long damn time. Its lead character is detestable and annoying, its commentary on the IP is basic bullshit, and the topical jokes it tries to tell don't meet the moment or pass muster, and due to this, the show is horrible and you should avoid it, because truly Velma is lacking in creative spirit and merit. It has no redeeming qualities. And with that, that was the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like rating, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and leave a comment telling me what you thought of Velma. Also, please consider checking out my Patreon page. $1 a month gets you onto this credit sequence, and $5 a month allows you to start making quick review requests. The link to my Patreon is in the description. And speaking of Patreon, I just want to thank my patrons, particularly my high tier ones in Samantha Devlin, Mom, and Morgan. Thank you so much for supporting what I do. Love y'all.